Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Brian, are you with us? You've no audio, This is Brian talking mute. Here we go. Again. Technical difficulties. You can see Pepsi. Look at the stash of Pepsi on the side.
With this live, is that better?
There you go. That's better. Yeah, we can hear your voice. Sweet sultry tones coming through now. So I thought I'd best be ready. So I grabbed the safety gear. You know, I'm going full CP. I'm gonna sit there with my bulletproof vest on and give you a war update.
When you buy your head protection from Temu.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Look at this. There you go. I think the amount of gel I usually have on is tougher than that anyway. So, right.
Yeah, I don't need to worry about that. My hair keeps falling out, so it's fine. It's all good.
Welcome, everybody. I know that's a completely random start that we're just chatting crap and sorting Brian's technical difficulties out, but, you know, it's the way it is. Nice to see lots of green names in there. Elusive, Dartmoor Survival. Miss Worm is in the house. Should we play her disclaimer? Should we do it just for giggles?
Yeah, good call.
Oh. No, I can't. I can't.
He's broken it.
No, it's uploaded on the Fireside one, not on this one.
That's all right.
Oh, well.
Anything we say is tongue-in-cheek, and it's not intended as good advice. Don't do anything stupid or illegal.
Yeah.
I hope you're all paying attention. I hope you're all paying attention.
Oh, it's on loop. Don't put it on loop. We've got a few phrases from Miss Worm. Anyway, she'll keep you in check in there. And I'll put the disclaimer across the bottom. Imagine that in Miss Worm's sultry tones. And there we go. Okay. So, Brian, I said UK is at war. That was the clickbait. That was the thumbnail. And so let's start with what a hell of a U-turn from STARMER. Like defense was always like second to everything. And all of a sudden to turn around and suddenly say he's going to up that. Now, before we say this is a major thing, it's by 0.2%. Because we're already, yeah, exactly. We're at 2.3. He's put it to 2.4, and he's saying by up to 3% by the end of this term of Parliament, which won't matter to him because he'll never get in again.
Mate, to put it in perspective, it's about as impressive as me turning up to a porno, dropping my shreddies, and going, "Hold on, the big one has landed." That's the difference in scale we're talking. It's not even worth talking about.
There goes monetization, guys. So any donations are appreciated because you know. Brian's lowered the tone instantly, no longer suitable for any audience. No,
it's a gift.
I mean, it must be the first moment that I've watched anything STARMER's done and gone, all right. Like not being completely disgusted by it. So at least he is paying attention. To put it in perspective for everyone else, the defense budget, it equates to 13.4 billion, which is the number he's bragging about. Now, the 13.4 billion is not instantly we have that. That is from 25-26 to 26-27. So it's not going to be up until 2027 before we see that kind of money. And it's more like 6 billion for this year. So, yeah, it's not a huge increase. Do you think it's the step in the right direction, though, Brian? Is he starting to see sense?
No, he's scared. He's been pushed into it by Trump. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done it. He would do what every other government's done since the 90s, the fall of the Soviet Union. They just cut. We went from 196,000 in the 90s, the British Army, to 72,000.
74, according to them.
Yeah, but bear in mind, how many are combat elements?
Exactly. 74,000 people in the army, 32,000 people in the navy, 30,000 people in the air force. But currently, the army has, I mean, they're talking about putting 30,000 troops on the ground in Ukraine as peacekeepers, right? That's what NATO's talking about. It has to be Europe because we haven't got that many troops. We have 19,400 infantry soldiers. That's it. Less than 20,000.
Yeah, they couldn't put them there. And if there was a pew-pew war started, given that we had shitty stocks to start with, we've given so much away to help Ukraine, which I fundamentally agree that we should have helped. We haven't replenished those stocks. We haven't. None of the big factories have decided to ramp up production in any meaningful way because the government have dilly-dallied and don't want to put in big production orders in case it stops.
Yeah,
it's just short-sighted drip feeding, mate. It's really sad.
Yeah. Killer says 0.2% rise in 2 years to 2.5. We were at 5.5% under Maggie. It's true. And I think I had a number written down here. During the Cold War, we were up between 6 and 7% GDP on defense towards the end of the Cold War. So yeah, it is interesting. But everything's if you I've seen other prepper channels compare the military to like pre-war and stuff like that, and it's just ridiculous, right? Because it's different warfare now, right? It's drones, it's automated things, it's things like that. We don't need regiments and lines of troops and stuff like that.
Don't necessarily agree with that.
How?
The war in Ukraine has dispelled many myths that NATO have had, that even fighting a near-peer adversary like the Soviet Union was, that the technological advantage would minimise the numerical advantage. That's proven to be false. If you were in a shooting war with Russia and they're willing to spend the bodies, we still need the mass of troops.
Yeah, I fully agree. I'm just saying we can't compare infantry troop requirements now to regiments of people with muskets because it's not the same.
Sorry. Yeah, I totally agree.
So like if we do most of our comparisons from like 47 onwards, it's kind of more accurate sort of thing. And to give people a perspective of where we're at with our defenses, I've obviously told the infantry troops, but our Navy, we're down to the Navy's website brag that we've got 70 ships in the fleet. It's actually 62. So they're even out of date on their own website. But in 1991, at the end of the Cold War, it was closer to 100 ships over that. And when I talk about ships, I'm not talking about little tiny rib boats. I just mean anything substantial, frigates, things like that and above, submarines, etc. The Air Force, 107 Eurofighters, Typhoons, and I think about 30 F-35Bs in service right now. 1991, end of the Cold War. So we hadn't been at war, just the end of the Cold War. We had over 800 fighting jets. As an island nation, it's insane that you'd think the army, that depletes, fair enough, but Navy and Air Force is our key to protecting ourselves, right?
The Type 42s, so the daring class that they brought in, and they boast about the Samson radar that can pinpoint a tennis ball at so many 100 miles. That's great. That's fantastic. But when they built them, they can't put them in warm water, right? Or they overheat and shut down. That's why they've all had to have the engines and generator sets ripped out of them. Then, to top it off, they're only surface-to-surface weapon, as in the harpoons. They scrapped him, but don't worry, we've got a deck gun. All right, okay. So we can shoot for maybe 7 to 10 miles with the gun, and yet something equivalent to the British Navy's River Patrol class, right? A little miniature corvette, which has no missiles because we won't buy them. It's just got a gun. Most of the cheaper navies generally mount surface-to-surface missiles on them, Exocets, variants of that. We would be sunk.
Yeah. So how far can that 12 million, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say it is that 13.4 billion or whatever he said. How far can that go? Because they're all due a wage rise anyway, right? The people that are there.
Apparently that's not included in it, but there was one of the commentators was on saying that something like 678 million of any funding would go into that. But it's not just a problem with troops, it's a problem with procurement. Everything that they do takes too long. Too many people get too much say. It costs 3 or 4 times as much. By the time we get into service, it's out of date.
We'll speak about Trident a bit after, but that's interesting. It's failed. I know it's failed the last couple of tests. I didn't know it was 6 altogether, but Jesus. Right, let's just step away from the British in a minute and let's see what the possibility, what's going on and what's the possibilities. So there's this mineral deal, right? And it's all about precious metals and minerals and stuff like that. All this wealth that Ukraine, under the crust of Ukraine, right? Just shift the bodies and rubble, and it's right there. But so he wanted all of it. They've renegotiated. He's getting like £500 billion worth, even though I think they've given less than £100 billion of aid. So he's got a pretty good deal there, Trump. But it's not a done deal, right? Because there's no stipulation for security, as far as I'm aware.
There isn't. So Zelensky's coming in Friday, apparently, to sign it. And there's no stipulation. Did you see his interview tonight, Trump, the 90-minute one?
I've not, no, I've not.
He basically said that it's Europe's problem, security guarantees, and he said again that, well, after all, we've got a lot of water between us and them. It's our problem, right?
Right, well, we'll have them minerals
said,
then, you ass bandit.
Oh, it gets better than that. Then he said the war started and it was NATO's fault. He actually said that. And then the same idiot they voted in the General Council yesterday, where they vote against the third anniversary of the war and said that it was a bad thing and Russia should get out. North Korea, Russia, Belarus, and the USA voted against the motion. What the actual fuck?
Kelly's eye said yes, it was NATO's fault.
Well, I disagree. So is it Latvia and Estonia's fault that they wanted in NATO as well? Ultimately, if we're going by the accords that were signed, then Britain and Europe said if Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons, they would be supported. Now, we didn't. Nobody ran in. There was no troops from the West on the ground to help them. And surely it's Ukraine's decision to decide what military alliance they want in. Does that mean if Russia, let's spin that round. So Russia took over the Czech Republic and right into Eastern Europe, right? That means then that we are justified. We would be justified with that analogy. No offense, Kelly, I'm not having a pop, but going by that argument, the fact that the Soviet Union in the 70s had decided to take most of Eastern Europe, sovereign countries, and take them right up to not even they decided to go, they were taken over. That means it's justification. NATO, by that logic, should have attacked, because that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I mean, he said there about we just needed to refuse Ukraine to join, and just write them off. Is that what we're saying? Well, let's not have a war. Let's write them off completely and not support them and let them get steamrolled by Russia. If we did that, that's like, I just go back to 1939. That's all I can do. Is there was
I have a piece of paper.
It was agreement signed and basically said yes, okay, we'll let you steamroll Czechoslovakia. That's what the peace agreement was, saying we'd basically turn our backs on it and you could carry on and take Czechoslovakia. And what happened after that? All the money, wealth, and arms that he confiscated in Czechoslovakia,
they turned them against us.
Fueled invading Poland.
Yep, totally agree.
So, I mean, it was right to try and stop him. How it was done and stuff like that is an argument for another day, I'm sure. But the point is now, I don't know how this plays out now, because Zelensky meets Trump on Friday, right? So what's on the table? Strikes a deal. There's no security. But I assume that means the deal would include them carrying on giving armaments to Ukraine, right?
You would hope so, but he keeps changing the narrative, Trump. He was asked directly tonight, so does that mean that Ukraine should get their territory back? Well, hopefully. I mean, they've got it. And he says to the reporter, are you going to take it off them?
Oh, Jesus Christ. He's a comedian. Oh, my God.
The big problem is he admires the Chinese premier. He admires Vladimir. He admires strong men on the world stage. who are allowed to do whatever they like and make all the big decisions without having to consult with anybody.
Yeah. Anonymity. Oh, fucking! It's him. Anon says America gave Ukraine 300 billion, no questions. Europe gave 100 billion, and are getting it back. That's why Trump wants the minerals. I understand that. I understand you want paying back, and but the idea of aid is you would get it back after the fact, not while they're still mid-conflict.
Yeah, that's not strictly fair and true, though, to be honest, because it wasn't 300 billion, but let's assume it was. They kept a lot of that money in the US. They're saying they gave them 300 billion. No, they didn't. They gave them unprecedented drawdown America's war stocks. Generally, older fucked Bradleys and older fucked Abrams and other systems, but not all CAC stuff. But then they spent the money in their own country and their own factories building new stuff. So that's not entirely fair. And Europe used some money from Russia's banks, and Europe did give some money as well.
Yeah. Thank you for the £4 super sticker, Killer 71. Really appreciated. That covers about 12% of Brian's swears tonight. But I'm trying to get to the point of what's on the table here, right? We'll just ignore the chat for a moment while we get through this bit.
Okay.
So he makes an agreement with Zelensky, but then he's not going to give them any protection. I assume he'll carry on giving them arms. Otherwise, why there'd be no point in Zelensky making the deal, right? There's no incentive there for him to do that.
He will sell them arms now. There'll be no more giving of any way, shape, or form. There'll be gouging deals done, and they'll pay top dollar for it. He's a businessman primarily, and he sees weakness, and he knows he's gotten by the bollocks. It'll be Lend-Lease all over again.
Right. So, yeah, they're still going to supply the arms, whether that's financial or what have you. In that case scenario, where does Putin stand and where does Russia stand with that? Are they just going to keep banging their heads against that wall? Is it going to escalate?
I don't think he will. I don't think he will keep giving them arms, though. I think in the short term, he'll try and strike a deal because he's always on about the deal, and he'll try and say, right, I mean, it's not all bad. He is over the top, Trump, and he has a loose card, and he does jump about from point to point, but he has got Western Europe talking about putting their defences up, so that's a good thing.
Oh yeah, I get
that's
that.
A good thing.
I get that, and rightly so. I mean, go on.
And he has got a peace talk starting, albeit not everybody's happy about it. And in any agreement, somebody's always going to be unhappy. If both people are unhappy, then generally they've got the right result, right? That's what they tend to say. But at least he's got people talking. So I do agree with some of his points. And that's a bit as far as kudos as I'm going to give him, to be honest. But I don't think he'll give mass amounts of arms and munitions to Ukraine in the short term, because that doesn't motivate them or coerce them to the negotiating table. However, if Russia don't come to the table and play ball, I think then he might give them more arms and ammunition to further incentivize.
But what's the carrot for Russia? All I could think of, the reason I compared to 1939 is that's what he wants. He wants to liberate Ukraine.
I think at the very least, Russia will keep Crimea and it'll be signed over to them as part of any peace accord as a minimum. And all we're doing is arguing over how much territory they get to keep and Donbass and the rest of it.
Yeah.
And there's no way they've kept... Everybody needs to win here. Putin needs a win to present to the people. Zelensky needs a win. And Trump needs a win. Therein lies the problem. A win that everybody can live with.
That sounds like an impossible task in my eyes. But I mean, let's look at what like that knock-on effect is, like you said about the defense spending. Let's first say what's the other shoe to the foot. What if there's no deal made? What if Zelensky doesn't? What if this deal doesn't happen? Because is that when then Trump pulls completely out of NATO and away from everything?
I think with the hesitancy that he's displayed and the mixed messages and the slander NATO and undermining the Western Alliance in a meeting yesterday when he voted with North Korea, Russia, and Belarus, right? If you were Putin and you're reading the signs, what would you think? You must be thinking it's Christmas come early. There was no concessions asked or answered to get the negotiation started. He just decided that Zelensky was bad, the West started it, it wouldn't have happened if he was there in charge, and this is where we are. And all the Russian talk shows at the time were clapping their hands and going, this is great. We've got a new friend.
That's a hell of an alliance, wouldn't it? USA part of BRICS.
I think we're on our own.
Wait, what, as Europe?
I think we're on our own.
Yeah, it's as NATO. I mean, that's the scary thing, right? Let's just quickly look at that. I've got a thing. Let me show you.
Keep it to yourself. No, thank you.
I'm going to show. I found this website, which was great because it wasn't just the usual compare USA with Russia. You can stipulate. So this is NATO without the USA and Russia, and it's a military comparison. Obviously, the money's a lot more in Europe, percentage of GDP, etc. They've got more troops technically. I mean, but they say that, but I think Russia's got more than that in the reserve. They've definitely got more than that available for military. So numbers-wise, manpower, obviously Europe as a whole, if everyone was to cooperate, would have more power. However, all of Europe has 6,922 tanks. Russia has 12,000.
Not anymore.
Well, minus this is quite recent, but you know, it's still a hell of a comparison. Artillery, we've got more armored vehicles, but artillery, 18,266 pieces to 9,930. I would argue Russia's got more than that now with North Korea's help. Self-propelled artillery.
Sorry, mate.
I was just, self-propelled artillery is like 100% more. There's like 3,000 to 6,000. Rocket artillery, 1,150 to 4,331. Comparing one country to an entire NATO, it looks very even down the board apart from the manpower numbers. It's actually quite scary in a lot of places.
The problem is the disjointedness of it. The problem is that there's no belief. There's no belief in Europe that they could go on their own. The last two major conflicts in Europe, they needed their big brother in the US to help them out. Because even at that time, there was so much self-interest, and every country fought as a disjointed own, right? That there was no unified front. Nobody wanted to commit until it was too late, and they got steamrolled right to the channel. And I don't see anything any different now, mate.
So the investment into the military, would it be nuclear deterrent that we need?
Because nobody's really going to do it.
The biggest, well, you say that, the biggest number comparison on all that chart, all them helicopters, all them submarines, you can compare man for man, blah, 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 all of that. Where's my notes so I get this accurate? Europe has approximately 120 nuclear weapons that are not US owned. Compared to Russia's 1,700 deployed strategic warheads, 1,100 strategic warheads in storage, 1,500 non-strategic warheads in storage, and 1,200 retired warheads awaiting dismantlement. Whether you believe the numbers or not, there's no deterrent there. 120.
It doesn't matter if it's 120 or 50. The result would be the same. They're not going to stop them, and it would devastate. Russia's got land to play for.
Yeah.
And they've got a willingness through any conflict to soak up large concentrations of troop losses and civil population. They could afford to do it. I just don't think they could afford to do it in that scale without destroying the state. Even if, let's call it the 100 and whatever it is a legitimate number, and all the birds got in the air and they all made it to target, Russia as a country would be gone. The fact that they've got 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, it becomes a moot point, because how many times can you kill everybody?
But we've got 100. We've got 120, and that Trident doesn't work, and we don't know how many of them are out of service. And they obviously
That
have
works both ways.
anti-missile technology. Yeah, I know, but they could have suffer losses like that. We can't with such little amount. You know what I mean?
But it doesn't really matter even if half the birds fly, even if 60 fly. If you hit 60 command and control centres that are near population, and they can vary the yield on the Tridents as well. If all the warheads hit and all the radiation that's put there as well, as a state, Russia would fall back decades, if not more, into a feudal period. The country would be destroyed. The fact that you've got maybe 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, it's a moot point. That's when it becomes ludicrous. It's almost like a pissing contest. They just kill everybody repeatedly. Everybody's going to die over we're all dead. We would all be dead.
Oh yeah, it's mutually assured destruction. I get that.
Even with the small number of warheads that we've got, for me, it's not really an issue because they would largely lose anyway. We would just be totally dead, but their country would be devastated to such an extent. It would be a close second, right? As a political entity, as a functional country at a high level, it would be toast, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, in my humble opinion, I don't think we'd even launch. I think we've got people in charge that are too hesitant, and it wouldn't even launch. We wouldn't even get a counter-offensive. It would be just all she wrote. But yeah, Izzy Thompson said EU NATO haven't got the energy to run industrial base to build or sustain a war against Russia. Who have? There you go.
Agreed.
I mean, the espionage and the sabotage side of war would suffer us more than anything, right? They cut off all them pipelines and stuff like that. They're already starting sabotage on cables and what have you. That's going to be the biggest one, right?
The big problem, Mike, that I see is they're already social pariahs on the world stage, although Trump is pulling them back in. So they don't really have a lot to lose in that regard. If everybody hates you, then they're not going to hate you anymore for taking a little bit more, right, in terms of territory from other countries or whatever. They're already losing hundreds of thousands of people. So what's another few hundreds of thousand, right? They've already ramped up their economy to a warm time setting. So they're as ready as they're ever going to be if they decided to push further west. Whereas we've had 3 years and largely haven't done anything with boosting the industrial capacity to replenish war stocks that we've given away and boost ones that are there. That to me is the big problem.
So I mean, with that in mind of how it could play out, what's the point in upping the GDP if it's not going to be like to 5, 6, 7, 8%? What is the point?
If there was a political appetite, which there isn't, if NATO got its act together, even without the problem is if the US actually party company would lose a lot of our high-end overview in terms of satellites and stuff. There is still some going to be there between Europe, but it's a fraction. You lose a lot of the nice Gucci stuff, but they've got enough high-tech stuff that they could pretty much smoke most of their fields, command and control, air defences. They could do a lot of damage. The problem is they can't do it for very long because we don't have the ability in stocks to sustain a conventional conflict for any length of time. If you could manage 3 weeks, you'd be lucky.
I mean, it's got to go into manufacturing, right? Because what little arms we did have, we produce Storm Shadow missiles. We produce them in this country, in Stevenage. They're created in a factory there, but then we've sent them all over to be used. I assume we got a factory full of spare parts and stuff in the process of being built. So I'd hate to see what our stocks are actually like. And I assume 13.4 billion is just going to be, that's restocking the shelves, right?
Yeah. And the shelves were pretty bare to start with.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, just for perspective, we spend 10.8% of our GDP on welfare. 8% of our GDP on the NHS, which is great, but it's badly run and it's hemorrhaging money galore. And what we've cut is the foreign aid. And according to official numbers, we only spend 0.6% of our GDP on foreign aid.
Fine, cut the rest of it.
Yeah, well, I think there's to really set up a proper defense, we'd have to make sacrifices, massive sacrifices, with welfare, with pensions, with NHS, whatever it needs be. But I mean, there's no point in a good NHS and a good pension if you've no country left, right?
My own personal opinion, there's no political appetite to do that, and there's no public appetite to accept it. I'm
googling the how much we're spending on net zero. If anyone will, well, duck going, you know. Net zero economy now generates bollocks. No, just lies. I've no idea. Net zero's making us money according to this.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that one bit.
I don't believe that for a minute. That's another rabbit hole for another night, another moan about the grid.
Net zero's bollocks. But yeah, there's lots of things they can cut. But the ones that people, right, so the foreign aid is a small percentage. The other one that people will say, who are right-leaning, what we can't say on YouTube, like, you know, hotels that are not being used by the general public at the moment, that's only a very tiny percentage of our GDP as well. Despite it being a lot of money, like, relatively, it's still only like 0.2, 0.3% of our GDP.
I'll tell you what I'd be up for. Stick 2% onto general income tax, but ring fence that income for the military. I'd happily pay that out of my wages right now.
Yeah, a lot of people would, but a lot of people also disgruntled that as well.
They would, and right up until the tanks were rolling across the Yorkshire Dales, they would still be saying it's not my problem. I can't believe we're doing this, and look at the mess they're making of Fluffy the squirrel's habitat.
Chagos, 18 billion. Good point, band again. Yeah. It's not enough, is it? That's what we're saying.
It should be double. It should be double, Mike. Do you not think so?
How do you increase the military size, right? Without you're going to throw money at this issue. This is a genuine question I want to know the answer to. You're going to throw money at this issue, right? How do you get the recruitment numbers up? Right? The most recent figures from the government, because it's quarterly audit. So January gone, 12,850 people joined the UK armed forces. 14,830 left. This is the regulars. We're not talking about reserves. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about the regulars. So in a quarter, we've lost 2,000 people. How are they going to recruit? How are they going to entice people? Because it's already, I mean, for me, leaving school, it was already a great prospect. Wage, food paid for, digs paid for, travel the world, blah, 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 all of this. Yeah, the recruiters had me, suckered me right in. Like that. Nobody...
Kids don't want to do it.
It's a different generation now.
It is, and I'm going to be a hypocrite. I don't want my son to do it either. And I'll be... That would make me... As much as I'm talking about it, and it's a hypocrisy. We should do this, we should do that. Oh, but not with my kids, right? So I do understand that.
Right? No, that's fine. As a parent, you want to look after your kids. However, if my son came to me and said, "Dad, I've signed up. I'm joining the army. I want to do it," I'd say, "Okay, that's your choice." I'd support him. It wouldn't be my first choice for him, but I'd definitely support it if he's doing it. But Paul says, with this woke nation, you can't. And it's true. I can't imagine that intake of soldiers.
Here's the problem. We've sold a lot of the training grounds. We've sold a lot of the the regimental HQs, the airfields, the fucking houses on them, the
We've
farms.
destroyed regiments. We've amalgamated regiments that have gone for a long, long time. My regiment doesn't exist anymore.
I think we're at the stage, and the urgency is at such a stage, that the core military of professional soldiers that you've got could be used as a training cadre for national service. And I think that's pretty much where we're at, because
you ask any regular
boxed.
though. You ask any regular if he wants to serve next to somebody on national service, if they even want to serve next to a reservist.
I get that. But here's the unfortunate reality. It's no longer an attractive proposition because the kids don't want to do it. But the country still needs to be defended. So we've got a lot of unpalatable choices and few good ones. So
does he resurrect Rishi's proposition that he threw out there last minute ditch to try and get some right-wing support, saying bringing back national service?
I don't think we've got a choice at this moment in time. I don't think we've got a choice, and for two reasons. One, it would get you the numbers you need using your current crop of professional soldiers that largely would form your NCO group, right? You're going to need to stiffen new units with professional soldiers, and even if they're in for 2 years and they leave, some might stay, but you've still got tens of thousands of trained troops to a level who have been through the system.
Yeah,
which we don't have.
2 years of training is going to be worth a lot more than conscription of 12 weeks and off you go sort of thing,
So I think that for me, that's where we need to be. What do you think? Or a better idea even?
I don't think I like national service, right? Everyone, might disagree with me. Not a problem. Everyone's entitled to opinion. I love the idea of national service. I like how a lot of people, I've got friends in Russia. I've not spoken to them for a long time. So I'm not sending secrets over there for the people that are watching in the black ties. But we used to speak to them a lot. They used to come visit and stuff like that. And they did national service at the time if they weren't going on to higher education. Now, I'm a massive fan of that, all right? Because our education system's our biggest export at the moment. Skilled people, coders, doctors, stuff like that. It's one of our biggest commodities at the moment. No steel industry, no coal industry anymore. So that is our biggest export, skilled people. So I don't want to stop that in any way. But the youth that's leaving school and working at McDonald's and can't even do customer service right and hanging about on the streets and keeping White Lightning in business for the last 20, 30 years, send them off 2 years. Get some discipline. Get some respect.
And also, it'll improve a lot of prospects for people because you're still going to have the REME, right? You're still going to have other support services. They could be trained as medics. They could be trained as mechanics, auto electricians. There's a whole core of craft skills that they might be eligible for. Obviously they'll do their assessments and all the rest of it, but there's options. They could come out with 2 years. They could come out after 2 years and have the basis of a trade, or they might stay in longer. So that I think it's an option that should be considered.
I'd be interested to know what trades they learn in that 2 years, because obviously your minimum service is usually like a 6-year period and you can learn a lot of things. I know a lot of lads that signed up roundabout when I did, and they left after the 6 years purely because they were joining signals or communications, and they came straight out to get a 50, 60 grand a year job in BT, straight out into a job at BT. And they joined for that purpose because they couldn't get into college and they couldn't get into uni. So they did the military for 6 years and came out and got better jobs than most of the uni students did.
Which is fine, and I've not got a problem with that. They're making the most of their opportunities. But consider this, backtracking slightly. If we did go down this route of the nuclear option, for want of a better term, that we're going to do national service, then I can't get past the fact that we've got a manpower of training that we can draw from. Whereas at the moment, we've got nothing. We've got nothing. There's absolutely nothing there. Although we could, I don't know what the eligibility period is for drawing troops back in that have left, whether it's 5 years, 2 years, whatever. I know when they leave, they come back.
Yeah, you were 2 years initially for the first wave, and I think it was 6 years after that you were still on record, and after that you'd be like signing up for new sort of thing. That was what it was a long time ago. What it is now, I'm not sure. Someone might know the answer in the chat, by all means. But I think there's something there as well, because if you come out the army after a year or two, as much as that discipline sticks with you, there's stuff that'll never leave you. No squaddy ever doesn't know his number off straight away. If they forget their army number, they're lying. But there's lots of stuff that they wouldn't just be able to go straight back in and pick up.
I get that.
So there's still going to be that initial training period, which you would have with conscription.
There is, but the muscle memory, stripping a weapon and all that kind of stuff that goes with it, your basic field craft, your section attacks and different things that you've done and learned by rote and hammered into you, instead of a 6 weeks, 3 months, whatever period they're going to do for new recruits when the shit hits the fan, you could cut that down maybe to 2 weeks. Familiarisation training, getting a baseline for fitness, see who's good to go now or whether we need to push them out to 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Where we are now is fucked.
And mentioning the woke nation, then I'll have to have a psychological evaluation, and if they've ever reported any form of stress or mental health conditions, they'd be written off straight away. And I'm sorry, I think 95% of my son's school suffered from anxiety. We used to call it nerves or butterflies, and you got over that shit and you just did it. But now they all suffer from anxiety. They've all been to the doctor about it. 5% of the population would be the only ones that are bloody eligible.
Okay, then if you can't do 2 years national service, you do 2 years civil service, right? And by
10
that,
years prison service.
Well, I mean, there's not everybody you're going to trust with a firearm, right? But
True,
if we're trying to bring back social...
There's 70% of the jobs in the military don't require a firearm.
Yeah, but they'll still need to do basic. Being a soldier first and foremost, as the mantra is.
Yeah, we'll let them do basic with a rubber weapon and then just stick them in the kitchen.
What about then? So your 2 years, we bang on about how there's no opportunities for kids when they leave school, with no trades, with no this, that next thing. So they're not eligible for the military. Okay. The military needs feeding. It needs feeding in terms of munitions, tanks, everything in between.
Yep. Yeah.
Here's a job in a factory. You might learn a skill, a trade. Here's a job. Not a YTS. We're going to give you a paying job, a living wage, and you're going to support in a way that you can contribute.
Yeah, 100%. Agree with that completely. And World War II, it wasn't even like it was a volunteer service which came together and did stuff like that. And the reason you see most of these parks and churches where they've got a wall with little metal stubs on them, a lot of people don't realize that was because they were the gates that they cut down to melt down and use for munitions during the war.
Yep.
And that's what them little studs are. People just, I mean, my son just thought it was a design thing, like little studs on the wall, but it's not. That's where they cut down the gates and stuff like that. And I think if we got into a situation where war officially, front page of the paper, I do think a lot of volunteers would come forward. I still think there's a lot of people patriotic in this country, but I don't think it's the people that are the issue. I think it's the system.
I think it's both to an extent, but I think by that time it's too late. It's too late, and if we do something now, we could have a evolving position of, and we're not doing away with the regular army. You still want to attract professional and retain professional soldiers. If that's what their pathway is in life and that's what they want to do, brilliant. But you've got to make it attractive to them as well. Married quarters, housing, all the shit show. Their pension's been degraded over the last 20 years. That needs sorted. If you want to retain a professional army, then treat them as professionals.
Yeah. Band again made a good point there. Army cadets, air cadets, sea cadets were a good recruiting source. And you know what? all their funding's been cut. All their funding's been cut. I literally paid for the boots and the uniform and everything like that. I've got a picture of my son starting Army Cadets. No funding left. Lack of volunteers. And, you know, there's good people that still volunteer and keep them going themselves. I'm pretty sure the Prepared Pathfinder, that's the one thing he does, and helps out with the cadets and stuff like that. So there's people out there doing it, but they cut all the funding. And it really was a great recruitment. Like on the you go into an intake day and you'll be sat with like 60, 70 lads. 40% of them, 30-40% of them have done cadets. The corporals hated and the bombardiers hated them because they're like, they think they know everything, but they're doing it all wrong. But it's not the point. It got them there, right?
See, the thing is as well, this is a problem you're talking about in Britain, but it's not a British problem. It's not just a UK problem. This is a Western problem because our problems, I know, Mel, I know. However, something's got to change, otherwise you'll change your national identity by force.
Yeah.
The German Bundeswehr is a shadow. Poland and the Baltic states are ramping up big time. They see the threat and they've been actively preparing for it since.
The German in 2022, Germany put 100 billion euros aside for their military. To boost their military with the threat of what's going on. So as much as their numbers are down, I think they are going to be on this same ramp up that we're on at about 10 times the speed.
We need to do something now, but there needs to be another thing as well. We're being hamstrung by states. So you've got Hungary, who doesn't believe that we should be doing this or next thing. Do you know what? That's fine. I get that. But you've got one country's hamstrung the entire NATO alliance and European Union. There should be a 3-strike rule and they're out. If it's so bad and you don't agree with all these things, and we know why you're doing it, is to extract concessions in terms of billions for yourself, and also because you're in the pocket of the Russians. Well, I'm sorry. Just disappear. Do one. We can't be pussyfooting about. The bear is literally at the door.
Yeah. Philip Hull said he agrees with you. National service is oncoming. Some sort of home guards to increase the reservists increase the general numbers and cherry pick the best for regulars. All good stuff. The home guard thing, though, this is again, I don't think it's possible with the country we live in. He's disarming this nation. Private owners, sporting owners, farmers, anyone with any sort of, weapons like crossbows were on the cards, stuff like that. What would Dad's army have now? It would be broomsticks and Jones's butcher's van. That's it.
I think what they would probably do, you've got something like 640,000 private firearms owners in the UK. Something like that. I can't remember the exact figure. If it got to that stage that we needed that, and we're in a time of conflict, they've already got all the records. They'll just send vans around everybody's housing estates. Everybody that's a legal firearm owner, I'll have your shells, bullets, guns, rifles taken off you, and they'll be given out to Dad's army. That's what would happen. That's what would have to happen.
I'd like to assume, if the person, say it's Farmer Brown, and he's 55, 60-year-old, and he has two for, pest control on his farm, I assume they wouldn't just instantly come and confiscate. I assume they'd ask him to volunteer with his own first, maybe. As in join
Possibly.
Dad's army.
Possibly.
But I mean, civil service, it's something that we had for a very long time. The Civil Defence Corps.
Oh, the Royal Observer Corps and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Is that the next step? Do we need to start incentivizing people to be interested in stuff like that?
I think as a country, and I include myself to an extent, that we've become so selfish and self-centered, that there's no appetite to do anything because it's not my problem. Somebody else will do it. I'm going to... Have you ever seen it? Do you watch The Simpsons much?
Yeah, I used to. Yeah, not
Right.
recently, but
They did an episode. They had Homer got the job as a sanitation commissioner, and he made all these wild promises and said to them that you shouldn't be picking up your own litter, you shouldn't be doing this, all these dirty, shitty jobs. Somebody else should be doing it, right? And everybody was so happy to abdicate all the responsibilities. That's what we've done in the UK for the last 40 years. Somebody else will do it. Big Brother will do it. We're happy to let him do it. It's not my problem. So there's no there's no responsibility, there's no personal responsibility. Nobody wants to do, there's no common for the good of all. But there's going to need to be.
let's throw a stick of dynamite into the middle of this.
Go for it.
Are we in a worse state because of Brexit now when it comes to defence?
No, I don't think so.
No?
We're probably in a worse state financially.
Because they've already started blaming it. They've already
It's nothing to
started.
do with
I've
that.
seen it. Yeah.
We disarmed with a disturbing speed since 1991. Wholesale. We just get rid of everything. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Privately run civil defence corps. Is that called a militia?
If you've got anything on that you want to drag and drop into the chat, I'd happily look at it later on. I know there is in Scotland. There's a civil resilience groups and things, but they're largely on paper entities with very few members.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're all good, mate. You're all good. I don't think Brexit caused the decline in the military. I think Brexit and false promises caused a decline in money.
Yeah.
But the public, myself included, been happy to see defence spending drop because there was more money for other services. It's our fault. And it is, because we didn't hold, we're political appointees, we don't hold them to account. Because it suited us. Let's be honest about it.
I found the Joint Civil Aid Corps. Welcome to the Corps. We are a registered charity that aims to provide voluntary emergency support. The Corps aims to bring communities together by helping them build self-reliance. Woo! When it comes to emergency preparedness and resilience. The best way to make that happen is to offer communities the opportunity to participate, and that's where we come in. Interesting.
We'll need to look at that.
We will definitely need to look at that. There's also a Civil Defence Association, but I think that's more of a history of the Civil Defence Corps sort of thing. But yeah, that's interesting that they mentioned preparedness and stuff in there. Maybe we'll band together, the UK Prepper Network and the Civil Defence Corps. I'm just
looking at one of the comments. Sorry, on you go, mate.
Go on. What have you spotted? Because I'm lost.
Steve-O 1982, law, Brian, under what law? I'm assuming he means walking around and picking up everybody's firearms off them. But you'll have emergency powers actually can bring in.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. And they don't even need. There's no. I was looking into that about the Emergency Powers Acts and stuff like that. It doesn't have the same blockers as normal laws or anything like that. It can just be done.
Blank check.
And the amount of power it gives them is scary. Is scary. None of your preps are safe.
No, we'll take everything.
Yeah, it's FEMA for us. It's what they were talking about America. FEMA was going to take the preps, wasn't it?
I see my brothers in the chat slaughtering me with comments. Would you join Brian as Dad's army soldier? Well, I've certainly got the bulk for Captain Mannering.
You definitely what's he called? You're Scottish. You've got to be you're doomed. Is it Fraser? That was
Fraser. That's the one. Yeah.
We interned 14,000 Germans on the Isle of Man as enemy aliens in World War II. We'd need Greenland to intern enemy aliens today. Christ.
And he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. No. Questions direct to the lads, please, in all caps. Yep, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Worm.
Somebody made a comment I glanced over earlier. They said that we've got people jumping across, and we've got a lot of immigration, which is a hot topic. And it said, why don't we say you've got to do a mandatory term in the forces, and then you get citizenship? Again, unless they've burnt all the documentation and stuff, that should be a barrier straight away. But if they're all over and they've got their documentation, you can prove that they're no murderer or rapist in their own country.
Yeah.
I'd be for that. If they came in like that and said, we want to join the army, we want to do a bit for our country if the country will accept us 5 years down the line. Okay, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, would you do it?
Would I join the army?
Would if they up the age and stuff like that? Would you consider the civil service, the civil corps, or Dad's army, or joining the actual army?
I don't have the physical fitness for anything approaching some sort of military. However,
nobody does on day one.
However,
after week 12, you'd be like, "Ah, boosh."
I would volunteer if the need arose for sort of Dad's army type thing, civil defence, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you're protecting home and hearth, whilst the days of me running up and down hills or lugging a backpack for 20 miles are gone. That doesn't mean to say I couldn't guard a gate, or I couldn't I couldn't do a static duty. I could still help. You know, everybody can help in their own way, so I still could do something.
Yeah,
and I would if I had to.
Could it ever come to that? That's the question. I mean,
yeah.
surely any war in Europe's going to be fought over that side. You know,
I believe they thought that in 1918 and 1939. I think that was a popular belief at that point as well, and it didn't work out too well.
Yeah, but I just don't think Russia's got a blitzkrieg in them. So they've tried and it didn't work.
Yeah. But who's to say they don't just get Belarus to come in and take the Latvian states? Go that way. You've got distraction in the north straight away. But we're selling ourselves short. With Sweden and Finland joining has been a massive boost because they've kept large conventional armies or larger than most of their Western colleagues. So we've got two values.
Isn't it Sweden that most people have like duty to the country? They have literally a rifle and some ammunition at home that's sealed and checked on a regular basis. They can't just go and open it and play with it. It's for an emergency, but they all have that in their own homes, right?
And bomb shelters and proper civil resilience, food, water. Because they've always been on their own. And Finland's been on their own. So they've had to take steps for their own security, which we've sort of not bothered as much as we should have. So we've got two valuable players that have added strength. And we've got some dead wood.
Jan White's just put France broke, allegedly about to ask loan from International Monetary Fund. I only highlighted that because all this has come at the wrong time, right? Because finances are on the brink. Gold market, silver, everything like that. We're getting cleaned out in the Bank of England. When the Bank of England's making an excuse that they can't move the gold because there's not enough trucks and not enough people, it's worrying times. We're getting cleaned out of our actual money, not currency, money.
Let's flip it in its head as well. Does he have to go to war and take Western Europe to bring anything down? If his ultimate goal is to get property, as in territory, he would have to be aggressive and take it. If his goal is to humble and bring down the Western states, he's doing that now just by Trump helping, because he's forcing people to spend money they don't want to spend on things they don't want to spend it on. And that's having a sea change across Europe. Macron's already went over with the bowl out saying, yeah, we totally agree. Mr. Trump, we're going to be better, we're going to spend more. So they've obviously been talking, and there's been an agreement in place that we need to spend more. That's great. But that's going to cause them political problems, and it's going to cause us problems in terms of local government spending, national health spending across Europe. And that's before we start getting issues with more cables being cut and all the other shit that goes on in a country.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends what his goals are, doesn't it?
Yeah, but we can't afford a war.
Mate, I struggle to get to the end of the month. I need money for power banks and pies.
Exactly. No, it's true though. It's like you're about to ask a nation. Like, let's be brutally honest. This is not going to be enough. Cutting the foreign aid is not going to be enough. They've already turned around and said that the energy prices are going up, which I know that's the energy companies that need bloody policing and stuff like that. But they're already taxing us to the hilt. The cost of living crisis is already choking a lot of us. You know, it's people are depressed. People are just giving up and emigrating and stuff like that. Somehow, some way, within the next 1 to 5 years, they're going to have to tax the nation. Like you said, 2% on your money, you know, on your income tax and stuff like that. How can you afford it?
I don't think we've got 5 years. I don't think it'll be anything like that. If things don't go well with the talks, Trump's already said
5 weeks.
Well, look at what he's done in the 5 weeks he's been in power already. He's caused chaos. Excuse me. He's caused chaos across all the markets as well with what he's doing and talking about tariffs.
Yeah.
A lot of his points have got merit, but what he does is so out there. Some of the good ideas that he has got are just totally buried because he comes across as a nutter.
Sorry. Tax the rich and large companies. Paul, this does not work because the rich and the large companies employ everybody else, and they'll either bugger off or they'll pay less or they'll fire employees and they'll make cuts elsewhere. It's a classic argument that I hate. It's just like, oh, tax the rich and large companies. Yeah, but you just won't. It'll go.
They'll leave.
Yeah. Why would you stay?
And
Russia's tax is a flat rate at 13%. And I think the really high earners, is like at 15%. So it actually pays if you're rich to live in Russia.
I wonder how much a free Bentos is in Russia, asking for a friend. And the price of Pepsi.
You need to Google, do they have free Bentos in Russia?
I embrace our new overlords.
It's true though. I mean, you can see why like the oligarchs and the rich people over there still have that kind of loyalty, because it's a haven compared to a lot of places. We punish people for being successful in this country massively. You don't even have to be overly successful. If you've got two people with half decent jobs, or if you yourself have got a decent job and you start doing some overtime, or you've hit that threshold, bang, let's whop you for tax. That double time is now just single time again.
Tell me about it. Anytime I do overtime, I get single time for it because I pay 42% tax and then national insurance.
Yeah, we are punished for being successful in this country, and it doesn't breed progression.
Well, then what you'll get is, oh, it's okay for you, you're doing this or you've bought that. Yeah, and I've fucking worked for it. Nobody gave me it. Free Bentoski. Oh, Kelly, that's brilliant. I like that. I'm going to need to do something with that later. That's me.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not trying to sing their praises in any way, shape, or form. But as a country, it's going to be difficult to ask our nation to volunteer the time for the things they would have done 50 years ago. Ask our country to make sacrifices. People giving up their own pots and pans to be melted down to use as parts of Spitfires and stuff like that. There's no way people are going to give up their new Ninja food dryer to make a Storm Shadow missile. Not that it's what would happen. The same parts, but you know.
So you'll have the Army Cadet Force. You'll have
The
Jimmy
underfunded and
McStabby.
disappearing. Yeah.
Yeah, but somebody who's never had their arse slapped for carrying on as a child, they get their camos on, they're asked to go on parade, and then they tell the volunteer for the cadets to go fuck himself, right? Or they'll spit on him or just plain assault him. And then it would be all over the news. 36-year-old school teacher, volunteer in ACF, grabs poor innocent little cherub pillar of the community, and his single mother and her 16 kids were so upset about it that once she got out of bed at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right, and chain smoked her way to the local news office, she let them know what she thought about it. And then it will pan to a
and we're in touch with 6 out of the 12 dads.
It'll pan to a double knock together fucking council house with a mobility car outside it, and her wearing a fish supper as a fashion accessory, complaining about her bad back and how the world is so bad, and her poor little cherub. What's his name again? Oh yeah, forget. And she gets the kid's name wrong because there's so many. That's really flippant, right? And it's a really extreme thing. But tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you've never seen that or something like that on the telly.
It started to get that way. When was I in? Like, I forgot how old I am. Say 20 years ago. It started
Did they have
to get
red card, yellow card?
No. But it started to get that way because they couldn't touch you. Where would they used to, a corporal would happily get in your face. They could shout in your face still, but I'm pretty sure when my son went for selection, they couldn't even shout. They weren't allowed in a certain distance of you. So it's getting worse, but it was getting that way even back then. We had a bombardier that after we all had a corridor beasting, came down to the end. And as he got towards the end where we were stood, he just turned around and went, by the way, lads, the drying room is soundproof. Basically, the lad that ended up getting us beasted, we had to sort him out ourselves because they couldn't touch him. So it's scary because I'd hate to see what this generation of soldiers does when it comes up against real conflict,
God forbid that never happens. But the fact that we're talking about it shows that there's enough worry there that it's a potential. And hopefully it's a potential. Yeah, it's illegal in Scotland as well. More's the pity.
Well, I've done a few spankings in Wales.
Yeah, but that was different. What was his name?
Why'd you ask? Jones, of course.
Tyrone.
Mr. Jones. Jones 3169. I forgot to mention the XL bully, Brian. You missed one off your list.
I never missed as much as the police. 19 shots to take it down. The one the other day.
What's that?
19. There was an XL bully attacked an elderly man a couple of days ago. The police in the UK shot it 19 times before it stopped moving.
What kind of crack
that inspires
was that?
Confidence. Inspires confidence with the marksmanship, doesn't it?
What were they shooting it with? BB guns? Jesus wept.
Yeah, it's that. I thought that was quite. Disclaimer: I feel sorry for the old fella it happened to.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean we're way off kilter subject wise. But yeah, that's where we're at. What's the next steps then? It's waiting for see what comes to these talks on Friday, and STARMER's heading to Trump as well, I believe.
Friday. He'll be there on Friday as well, so we're safe now. He's going to sort it.
He's got to start that with an apology, right? I'm sorry, I was going to send 100 Labour volunteers over here to campaign for Kamala. I'm sorry we slated you all the way through the election. He's got to kiss some ass now, right?
I don't think he does, because Trump doesn't like that. He only admires strength.
One can have both, Mel. One can have both. I've got a tinfoil gimp mask.
Now, there's an image I don't need.
I'll grab now.
No, please don't.
Coming
I
soon.
had
It's coming soon on the merch store.
an image in my head there of Zippy from Rainbow with a tinfoil hat on.
Saying nothing. Yeah, so sorry, we keep getting off points with people's sordid comments in here. Yeah, so he's going there on Friday. I don't even know what he hopes to gain at this point.
But he's already changed his tune. This is a guy that wasn't going to increase defence spending, and we're doing another defence review. Ergo, cut the shit out of the military again. We've got 2 carriers that we still can't put. Without assistance from the Americans, we still can't man the flight decks. We don't have enough planes. But we don't have enough frigates and destroyers to protect them either.
Yeah.
I think he's going over there to try and get Trump to see reason, which I don't think he's going to do. But the same as Macron, to say, look,
STARMER tomorrow, Zelensky Friday, Jason.
Right, I thought it was. I know he's leaving today. I thought he was going over for Friday. I stand corrected.
Hopefully the storm's over there. No, carry on.
It's a difficult one. What way it's going to pan out, mate? I don't know. I still think Trump will use the carrot and stick with Putin, and I do think Ukraine's going to need to concede land. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Right. How does this affect us now? As preppers, is there anything we should be doing or could be doing, or have you increased your preps, etc.? How can we prep for this now? I mean, I don't want to tell everyone to go out and panic buy, but what I'd buy on a weekly basis has increased purely to make sure my stocks are up. But what would you say? Is no reason to panic right now?
As a rule, preppers shouldn't be panicking. That's why we talk.
Of course, but there's preppers in here that have been doing it a week, so
keep doing what we've always said to do. Start small, build a little. Don't financially cripple yourself to do it. There's no shooting war in our country yet. There's no need to hamstring your family's finances to do so. But you should be aware that we've got issues in Europe. We've got a nutter in the US. And we've got weak leadership in our own country. Plus, we've got a lot of financial problems in our own country. And we've got we've not got an unreliable power grid. We've got a hodgepodge of crap that's creaking at the seams. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong that might never. However, do what we've been doing. Keep doing what we've been doing. And until anything drastically changes, I won't be ramping anything up. My plans are in place for this year. Buying the workshop, that's ordered. Putting in more solar, more batteries, that's happening on Friday. So what I've planned to do hasn't changed.
Jesus, Mr.
You're right there.
I nearly died.
Lammy will save us. Yes.
Stop that.
Yes.
Stop
I don't
that
share your
at
optimism.
once.
Oh dear. Right. Yeah.
And join the Discord. Even if you don't want to join as a member, at least join the public channels. There's always somebody there. It's fairly sociable. You can agree, you can disagree, but certainly chat about it. And that's 24/7. There's always somebody there, and you'll get good ideas. You'll get some bad ideas, and you choose what works for you and your family, and ask your questions, and that's what it's there for.
Yeah, there you go. I made a nice friendly link because Discord wanted to charge me the earth to do it with via them, so I just did my own. But yeah, join the Discord definitely. Get off the vape, says Snapdragon. Rift security, stick to your budget. If you can get out in your area, do so. Make note of potentially useful things. I mean, one thing I'm going to do now, and I think Brian's going to do the same, is we're going to look into this civil defense thing. I'm definitely going to look into this civil defense and aid corps. I don't think I'll sign up as they've stole my map. I'm sorry, but people that know, does this not look extremely familiar? That's why is it?
Worried about the picture.
What's that?
I was worried about what you were going to share there. I thought it was zippy again.
No, share screen. That's it. It's always a good thing. Share the screen. Window. That one. Douche. Look, they've stole my map. So it shows that I had a sort of idea, zonal, and it's a similar sort of thing to what we've been doing within the network. So this is very interesting.
When you get a chance, ping me that link, would you?
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, there's definitely more to come. Maybe stuff we can learn from them and stuff we could put to them ourselves as well. Funding. Oh, look, they've got all sorts of funding. We've got a £4 super chat from Killer71. That's our funding.
And it's all appreciated.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. We'll try for the National Lottery next time. Anything you want to add, Brian? I think there's no question. I'm trying to, guys, if there's any questions I've missed, please whack them in capitals now.
Put it in bold.
Stick it on now because I have missed quite a lot scrolling through. That's not a real question.
I think the takeaway is...
That's not a real question.
The Western militaries have been degraded a lot over the last 30, 40 years. We're not in a position to fight a conventional war for any length of time. That's not to say we couldn't fight a short duration conflict, but we don't have the stock levels to fight a sustained war. Biscuit fund.
$1.99 for the biscuit fund. Get quite a lot of packs for that. Thank you, Miss Worm. It's really appreciated. That's her month's salary gone for being a moderator. Why did the West never bring Russia into the fold when the wall fell?
Because they exploited them.
Good point. Why is it never? I mean,
the
Soviet Union was disbanded, and it was all, sweetness and roses come by but it's always kind of remained separate, right?
The problem was money, in my humble opinion. When the Soviet Union fell, they had large amounts of natural resources, poor infrastructure, and everything was cheap. In terms of investment-wise, you got a lot of bang for your buck for investment. So Russia did ask to join NATO, that's right, they did, and they never got in. That was a missed opportunity as well. The West was happy to exploit their natural resources, invest in their infrastructure, short form, to make money off Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of oligarchs were made in Russia, and a lot of politicians made a lot of money. But they were never brought into the fold. There was the state visits. Putin was over for a state visit in the UK as well. Nothing came of it. They were never brought in. It's a missed opportunity.
And it's fuel for him, right? I don't want to say propaganda as such, but Russians know this. Russians know they've been excluded and stuff like that, and they've had to fight for everything they do have. So it kind of makes Putin out to be this great leader that they all kind of respect and worship in a way. I think if the deal goes through, the US will put boots on the ground to protect the minerals.
I don't think they will.
The problem with that is, right, I understand the thinking, the logic, protect your resources and stuff like that. However, the reason I don't think they would do it is because the first stray drone, the first stray strike, the first stray bullet that takes out a United States Ranger or something like that, then he's going to have to react. And Trump being the president he will have to react strongly. So that could force him into a dire situation.
I agree. What I think you would probably see a lot of would be private military contractors.
Oh, yeah.
Gathering infrastructure.
There already is. There already is over there.
I think the other problem with peacekeepers is they'll be getting shot at from both sides. It's in the Ukrainians' interest, the SBU and other facets of their government, will be taking pot shots at any peacekeepers from this side, or even getting across into Russia and taking shots from there to make it look like the Russians. It's not in their interest to let things go. I think there would be state actors on both sides trying to elicit a response from any peacekeepers.
How are you reading peacekeepers when he says that? Are you reading put there during or the conflict to stop the conflict? Or does there have to be a peace agreement in place?
Yeah.
And then there. But I think we're going to end up like Korea with a huge demilitarized zone that is going to be constantly on a knife edge.
Yeah, agreed. Because it was like that from 2014 right through. So we've already had that and it didn't work.
Yeah. Muxley, I can't get onto Discord. I tried. I got an invite when I got an invite, but it barred me as I was a bot, apparently. You failed the Are You Human test. Just try with the new link, with the link I've created, which is discord.ukprep.co.uk, and let me know. Chuck me an email, Muxley, if there's any issues. We'll see if we can sort it out for you. Don't want you missing out on that. It comes out of Mr. Worm's account. Well, in that case, you should have had a couple of zeros on the end of it, you know. If it's not your money, Mr. Worm, splash it, you know.
I'm interested to know we've still got quite a few people in. We've got 87 people in the chat. Do they think there's a potential conflict coming? They've heard my ideas and your ideas, what we think in our chats.
Yeah.
Does everybody else think we should be worried? Yeah. What do you guys think?
Let us know, yes or no, and how long in your eyes. Months, years, weeks, hours, minutes. Hopefully not hours and minutes. Wasn't NATO formed to defend against Russia?
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably why fundamentally they wouldn't have been let in as such, but it was no, I'd say no, it wasn't. It was formed to defend against the Soviet Union, right?
Which was Russia when they took the Baltic states, the Czech Republic.
I know, but you can't say that Russia is the Soviet Union is Russia. It was a completely different thing, you know.
It was formed by the parent company, if you like. Consider it a hostile takeover. McDonald's decided to open a few franchises.
Yeah, but they're very westernized compared to a Soviet Union behind the Iron Curtain. So
they are now.
It's a different country now, I think. I don't think that would be an excuse not to let them into NATO at this stage. That demilitarized zone was Russia wanted all day along, no NATO membership. So the comments are coming in now. Yes, 100%. Yes. 50 Sambo's 50-50. I like your picture, Sambo. Full respect for the profile picture there. That's who we need, not Starmer. Border Wanderer says yes. UK Preppers says yes this year. This year.
All right.
Babe, we're going back to farm foods. Knew I should have got that extra spam. It's posturing now, says Orange Man God. Yeah, we know that. I mean, it's been saber rattling, it's been dick swinging, it's been whatever you want to call it for the last 2-3 years, at least. I mean, it's gone on since the Cold War. You know, there's kumbaya moments, but there's always been that. Yeah, but we've still got this many nuclear weapons. Yeah, but mine's this big.
Kelly's point again. I like Kelly's eye. He makes some good points, but I'm going to just answer that one. I disagree, but I disagree because of this is my rationale.
Which point are you talking about? Sorry, this one.
No, further before that.
No NATO membership.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not their place to say. That would be like us saying to Russia, you can't do this, you can't do that, right? They're a sovereign state. Even before they invaded Ukraine, they had battalion groups running all up the border. And when they were questioned and challenged on it, he said, "This is our territory. We can put our troops in our territory wherever we like." Okay, that's a fair comment. But then they were complaining because Ukrainian troops were marshalling in their own Lagers in a defensive posture.
Mm-hmm.
It works both ways. As a sovereign state, Ukraine is allowed to make its own decisions and its own alliances, the same as Russia's. And Ukraine has got no right to invade or attack Russia because it doesn't like that it might be jumping into bed with China.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't give them a valid excuse to attack them. Just because they don't want them to join NATO doesn't give them carte blanche to attack. They might wish a buffer state, but again, that doesn't give them the right to carve off hundreds of thousands of kilometers of Ukraine because they want a buffer zone.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to put in innocent lives and families into this as well at some point, so it's not justified no matter what happens. I don't think anyone would be justified.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just giving you my opinion, Kelly.
Yeah,
that's just
100%. Yeah, we respect your opinion. We like difference of opinions. That's what makes these chats interesting. Interesting enough, Kelly's I did say yes, but not by the main protagonists within 12 months. Brown Coat Prepper says yes, 100%, possibly the next 18 months. Wow, these timelines are very short.
Sure, that's interesting.
It depends how much money they can make. That's
cynical, but I like it.
They'll find they can make as much as the printer will let them. Currency. What items should we buy / look into ready for war prep in your opinions? Like Brian said before, stick with the core. Stick with the core of prepping. You've got to think, by the time it's knocking on our door, you'll be conscripted, you'll be in Dad's army, you'll be in the civil service, you'll have been issued something, it'll all be different. It'll be a different situation. Right now, what you're preparing for is the knock-on effects of a conflict, yeah? The nations trying to cut our power, starve us off as a nation, no exports, imports, etc., stuff like that. So you're prepping for financial, you're prepping for food, you're prepping for just to maintain your lifestyle. But what you do as a core prepper, whether it's for blackouts, CMEs, anything like that, zombie apocalypse, them core preps, just keep doing that. More of the good thing. And let's be fair, if you're prepping stuff you eat, if you're prepping stuff you use, if you go camping and things like that, none of this stuff ever goes to waste. You're not prepping something that's going to sit in a cupboard in 10 years. It's never going to be used. You're going to cycle through these and there's always going to be use for it. So, yeah. So, would you like to answer as well, Brian? Or
100% agree. That's it. Stick to the basics.
Yeah. I mean, you could go out and get all your Fallout stuff and things like that, but unless you've got the money and the space to dig a shelter and build it properly, then kind of wasting your time. By the time
you build me one
stage,
as well.
Yeah, that's it. If we get to 1 million subscribers on the channel, I'll build one and you can all come and join me. It's fine. Not for 18 months at least. So he's gone the opposite way, Killer. As Russia rearm and ramp up material.
Again, quite a short timeline, though.
I don't think they would need 18 months to rearm. They're
good to go now. They're on a war footing.
The big player in all of this that we've not mentioned is China. China, military technology, military weapons, military size is a massive player in all of this. You see these great little robot dogs on Boston Dynamics, and they're going to use them for scouting in fields. China's already got them made at a fraction of the cost and already mass produced. They're leaps and bounds ahead. You just don't see it all over the place. And if they shake hands and say, yeah, we'll supply you equipment, then that's a game changer.
I think they've been advancing their navy and their amphibious capability wholesale for years, and they're as ready now as they're ever going to be. I think if Russia decided to take a pop further west, then China might take that as an opportunity to reintegrate Taiwan.
Well, we've said that before, and they've been close to it, haven't they? They've been teasing with Coast Guard ships and stuff like that. But Big thank you to Robert McNamara, our friend from across the pond. Sent us $5. We'd prefer gold. Send some of our gold back, please, Robert. America's taking it all.
See, if Robert's still on here, a question directly for him, because it's good to get a perspective from our friends across the pond. What do you guys think? I mean, you're seeing Trump's actions, and obviously our perspectives is different. What's Joe Blogs, America? What do you guys think of what he's doing regarding NATO? And from our perspective, throwing it under the bus.
It would be interesting, and I assume it'll be very split in their country as well, like some degree and not. But yeah, we'll have to get Ration Nerd back on as well. Paul says 3 to 4 months.
Wow,
I hope or 3/4 of a month. I don't know if that's what it. So yeah, 3 to 4 months. That's insane. Dawn Fox says yes for a couple of years. Whiskey Jack J says no, won't be a conflict. There are talks with Trump in secret this week. They're not very secret. Everyone knows. They will come home with their tails between their legs. And I think you're.
I don't think so.
I love your optimism. I kind of hope you're right. Genuinely, it's not. This is not good for anyone. Even as a prepper channel, this is not good for anyone. Yeah. Because YouTube won't exist. But I kind of hope you're right, but I think you're overly optimistic there. And you placed a lot of faith there. The best time for the West is now. Peace will allow Russia to rearm, with the Chinese helping. Trump knows this. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. China holds a lot of power, and they're not talked about as much. Like how the Americans whinged about Russia putting nukes in Cuba.
But nobody, Ukraine never, and I'd seen one of our points. You're right, Ukraine didn't have nukes. Ukraine had Soviet Union nukes on their territory, but they still had viable weapon systems that they could have reprogrammed, but they gave them up. However, as it stands, even if they joined NATO, they wouldn't have put, what they probably would have put was early warning radars and stuff in it. I would accept that. But nobody suggested, and Ukraine never had any nukes there anyway. But you're right, there's a lot of hypocrisy, Kelly, that the West put nukes in Turkey, and that was okay. But when Russia decided to do it in Cuba, it was the end of the world.
I'm sorry, I don't think I'd trust Zelensky with any sort of nuclear weapon button. He looks like he's constantly on the Colombian marching powder to me. And I know he's got to stay awake through a lot, but late to this tonight, gonna have to catch it all later, says Anarchy.
That's not good enough. Comments. You should have been here at 9 o'clock.
Not good enough. It's not good enough. There you go. More grey zone warfare, undersea cables cut, and cyber attacks. Cyber attacks is not really spoke about, but it's like it's the easiest way now to attack a nation with plausible deniability. And I'm surprised we're not seeing more. I know we've invested heavily in cybersecurity. One of the best paying jobs you can get in my industry is sidestepping into cybersecurity. I should do that, to be fair. But it's we've not. I don't think we've seen major. I know a lot gets stopped, and we've had China the Barclays things and stuff like that. What, the cables?
Yeah, yesterday or the day before in Taiwan, they arrested the crew.
Sure they did.
There was
arrested them and gave them medals. Or Taiwan arrested them.
Yeah. I looked at something before Christmas and I'd posted a little article on it. Up in 2024, up until September, there was 64 notable cyber attacks in the UK that GCHQ had. They've got a scale and they'd assessed them as significant in terms of potential outcomes that could have happened.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot.
Yeah. Easy Link says, where will the enemy come from? Within or an external source?
Ooh.
Both. I think we would see internal sabotage, and there's clearly going to be people here that supports different people's causes. So be vigilant, practice self-awareness at all times, especially in public places. Civil unrest, the first I'm thinking across EU and the UK. We're already seeing that, J-Law. We're already seeing that all over the place. And feels like we're a powder keg, right? Like with the farming stuff and things like that. Everything they must at some point they're gonna run out of distractions. You know what I mean? Because it's constantly a distraction to get you away from it, because nobody's really spoke about the farmer stuff, but all that's still going on. A4 Anarchy became a new member. Thank you for joining.
Welcome.
Appreciate it. Net zero collapsing, immigration collapsing, economies collapsing, control collapsing, all circumstances leading to war. But war is the cure for all of the above.
Yes.
It's in a nation's interest or the powers that be to solve collapsing issues like that, like the economy, like control. War gives all them things back. And war's
Distraction
profitable for a
101.
lot of people. Yeah.
That's what kept Maggie in power when she was getting kicked out in the 80s.
You plan to fit 1 million people in a bunker. No, we get me to 1 million subscribers, but then the core group that's here right now, you lot, you're invited. Everyone else, lottery. So just go and pinch somebody else's account and subscribe. Russia has caves and warehouses full of military gear, says Paul Thomas. They're also building them things up like towards the Arctic Circle, the embedded like nuclear fallout shelters, weren't they? Did you see that?
They've been building bomb shelters and civil defence since the 90s.
Yeah, but like a big push for it recently. I remember seeing it. Or just, suddenly decided to report on it. Could be that. They are still waiting for arms tickets, silent weapons for the quiet war will work out by 2030. China have most of the nitrocellulose for shells and the like. Yeah, like I say, they're a huge player. Absolute huge player, China. And it's all quiet. It's funny how I thought Trump would have been that. I thought that would have been his first port of call before a phone call with Putin would be to get China on board, because they make the difference in making that a superpower. Cyber attacks on financial utilities and communication systems. People are still telling us what's going on, but the timelines are scary. What everyone's
Robert's replied to our question.
This one?
Yeah.
I think they should strengthen NATO, but I think everyone should pay their fair share, because you would be shocked at how much tax my wife and I pay for, and I pay about 60%. Yeah, it's
I agree.
How do you work out a fair share? Because population, the amount of tax per person per capita, the amount of natural resources and money you have as a country, you can't possibly expect Greece to pay the same as the United States. So it's got to be percentages, right?
I think GDP, how they've been doing it, is the fairest way. But I think his point's well made, in as much as the West haven't been taking our fair share of the. I get, well, like I'd said earlier in the chat, I do get what Trump's done, and I agree with it to an extent, because he's forced the Western economies to own up to the responsibilities. In his last presidency, he warned them, and it was ignored. Now he's forced the issue.
Yeah.
So I don't criticize him for that. So in one respect, he's done the right thing, but it's good to see a one of our friends across the pond's perspective on it.
Follow on from that is, I'm actually afraid of the costs of these wars my kids and grandkids will have to pay. Yeah, well, it's always the generations to follow that suffer. Would the members of the armed forces soldier on if they were called to go to the Ukraine? What consequence would the result of this if it were to happen? I said, I think I might have just been talking to myself, but I think I said it in the video where I was doing the direct comparison with historical events, that I believe, for me, whether peace agreements, whether it's peacekeepers or whether it's an actual conflict, this is our next theater of war. This is our next Afghan. This is our next Iraq. This is our next. They're going to go and serve their 6 weeks over there. This is going to be the next place that they're just going to serve, and they're just going to do it. And they will soldier on, because no soldier serving regular, feel free, if you're watching, guys, to jump in and correct me, are fighting for STARMER, are fighting for sausage fingers. They are over there because their friend is over there. They are over there because their other mates over there. They are over there supporting the squaddies that are next to them. So unless they all decided not to go, they're all going to go. So that's my humble opinion. Anyway,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's only the first month that you're like, I'm here for Queen and country. Well, king now, but after that, you're just there for the other people. China looks enviously at Russia assets just as much as the West do. Putin has danger at both ends of his country. I think there's more of a potential ally and alliance there, because I think that relationship's improved since the amount we've sanctioned Russia. That's become their main point of trade. I don't know. We'll never fully know unless we're sat there in the meetings. But it is interesting with the North Korea aspect of that. Canada, Italy, and Spain, low military percentages of GDP. They need to up their games.
Agreed.
Well, what was the...
Did you have the charts for GDP there?
I've got the percentages, but you've got to bear in mind, we might pay 2.3% and Finland pay 2.4%, but when it comes to money, actual amount of cash, it's a lot higher. We're fifth, but higher percentages than us. So we're at 2.3. Then you've got Finland 2.4, India 2.4, Singapore 2.7, Pakistan 2.8, South Korea 2.8. Colombia 2.9, Greece 3.2, surprising. USA 3.4, Poland 3.8, Kuwait 4.9, Israel 5.3, Oman 5.4, Russia 5.9, Saudi Arabia 7.1, Algeria 8.2, and Ukraine 37. Obviously. But interestingly enough, India spend more physical cash than us as well. So they're at 2.4, we're at 2.3. India is ranked higher than us for the amount they spend on defense. Surprising.
Bigger land mass, more people.
Yeah. But you just don't think of it. You think of it as a less, but they've got a constant conflict and threat of a conflict on their border, I suppose. So I understand that one.
What I'm thinking is why we're still sending them foreign aid.
Reparations. We don't look after the troops from the Afghanistan war. They won't look after the troops from the next war either. It's shameful.
Agree.
Yeah. Veterans never get the help they need. Hence the reason I'm doing my charity event for Help for Heroes, because it's all about the veterans. So make sure you go and check that out as well. But yeah, we've got to do that ourselves, look after them. What about the GDP per capita? Ours is falling all the time. True, I suppose. Yeah, it's depends on your population. Russia and China are fellows, BRICS members. They'll be looking after each other for a few years yet, says Anarchy. I think we should call it before we digress further into political arguments and stuff like that. It was interesting getting everyone's take on the timelines, though, definitely.
What was surprising out of that was that 99% of the people that replied believe that we're going to be in a shooting war with Russia. And most of them within 18 months.
Yeah, I don't know what that link is, Miss Worm, but it's not correct. I'm just going to remove that in case that goes to somebody else. There must have been an overlap with some links there. Sorry, what were you saying? That threw me off.
No, just that it was interesting that most of the people that replied believe that we're going to be in a shooting war with Russia. And the greatest amount of them believed it within an 18-month period.
Yeah,
so,
lots within a year, one with 3 to 4 months.
Surprising, eh?
Yeah, it is. It's does that make you want to prep more? Is that
No, because again, I'll have capital budgets that I'll put for big prepping projects, and I'll have a certain amount every month that I put into it. And I've already spent a lot of money putting more solar and more batteries in, which happens on Friday.
Yeah.
And I've spent a chunk of change on the new workshop, which comes in the 17th of March. So I've taken a week off work to build that and run some cables and put in solar on it and shit. So I'll video that as well.
Yeah. Miss Worm, there was a carriage return missing on the description, Miss Worm. I've corrected it. That's why. She started the next line. So all the physics say they see at least one nuke go off in Europe. All the psychics. Oh, sorry.
Psychics, right.
Psychic. Do you have any opinions on that? I can't say my opinions.
It's not something I believe in personally. However,
it's a crock of shite.
If people believe in psychics, and it's the same as religion for me. I'm not a very devout person, but if somebody gets a lot of comfort out of believing in that, I can't say they're wrong because I can't prove it. So my opinion is they're entitled to their opinion. It's just I don't share it.
I have a personal grievance with psychics. We'll go into that another day. Right. Would you like to...
I've got to hear it now, mate. What was it? Spit it out. You can't leave it in a cliffhanger.
I'll tell you after the credits.
Right.
Would you like to... Any final thoughts? Just mention your channel and then say goodbye, if you don't mind.
No worries. My final thoughts were the psychic told you it's okay, Mike, it will grow, and it never grew. Was it like that? Final thoughts. Thanks everybody that came in. Channels, live chats floated about 80, 90 people for the last nearly 2 hours, which is really good for us to listen to this drivel for so long. And yeah, we'll see you in Discord.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate it. Make sure you go and subscribe to Brian's channel as well, Scottish Prepper 73. He's got some interesting videos. We're still waiting for him to destroy some pies in different ways. We're still waiting for them videos. But yeah,
I just haven't had time, mate.
From me, thank you to Miss Worm here moderating, giving you all the links. Make sure you put your own link in there, Miss Worm. She's got her channel. Teleboy is super late to the party. We're saying goodbye. Put your own link in there, Miss Worm. She's got a great channel. She's also a published author and she has a book for sale. So make sure you go and check that out. From me, all my links are below. You know all that crap. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.
Later, folks.